we are live.
We hated them and loved them all at the same time.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second episode of the YTMCU podcast. Today, I have someone who is not usually someone that you see in our videos that often. It's my ma, bro.
Hello, everybody.
What's up, ma? How's it going?
It's going good.
So go ahead and tell everyone here a little bit of who you are and what you do.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. So I'm Alex's mom. What do I do? What do I do in the as far as the movies? Okay.
Not your job or anything.
So, basically we started doing this many years ago, and I basically carted Alex and his friends around to everywhere they wanted to go to film.
It's 100% true.
I've made a few appearances in some movies as Gina Flint.
Very, very great name right there. It's
yeah.
like one letter off.
Tina Flint, yeah. So, done some of that, done some filming, made some props.
Yeah.
Made some costumes.
Yeah.
Kind of just mostly behind the scenes, supportive mama.
Yeah, definitely our number one fan of all time.
Mm-hmm.
So, when it comes to comic books and movies as a medium, what do you think makes a good mix? Because obviously we try to make both movies good film and adapt comics at the same time. So what do you think is that kind of sweet spot that makes it a good adaptation?
I don't really know what the sweet spot is, because there's been a lot of times when you've asked me for input on things in the movies, and I'll say something and you'll go, "That's not in the comic books." So you guys really try to stick with what's going on there, more so than the, I guess, mainstream frou-frou that people think superheroes and supervillains are like. And in the comics, they're a little bit different. They're a little more harsh. Of course, it's kind of hard to make films like that with not a lot of financial backing in place, so we do the best that we can with what we've got to work with. But I think you guys just do a really good job of bringing to light the vision that you guys have in your minds, and it seems to work pretty well. I mean, people like it.
Yeah. I'm definitely on the right mental track when it comes to trying to tie them together. So we'll kind of split those questions apart now. So of course you watch a lot of movies on Netflix in your spare time. So this is more of a personal question than anything. What do you think makes a good movie? What do you enjoy? What do you like about movies that you watch?
Well, it depends on which genre we're talking about. It has to have a good story. I like a happy ending. I don't care what kind of ending it is, whether it's a kick-butt movie and the good guy wins, or it's an emotional type romantic movie and everybody's all in love and it's happy. Those movies where it abruptly ends and somebody dies, or there's not a happy ending, just really burns me, and I find myself going, did I really just spend the last couple hours of my life all involved in that just to get to the end of it and be let down?
What about Braveheart though?
Braveheart is a fantastic movie because Braveheart has everything. Braveheart kicks ass.
100%.
It's a good story. He goes through a lot. He finds love. The love's taken away from him, but he provides it to someone else in a way. It's kind of a strange way to put it, I guess. But even though he does die in the end, he leaves a really powerful legacy behind, as far as the people that followed him. And I mean, yeah, I would have liked to have seen it end differently, but it had to end that way for a purpose, which is okay.
What about something like 300, for example, which is trying to base it off of both a comic and a real life story at the same time?
So, I'll be real honest with you. Didn't know 300 was a comic.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
It's a comic that's based off of the real story of the Spartans versus
Okay.
the Persians.
So, I mean, the Spartans, that's historical. It's advantageous for what they went through at the time. It totally bums me out that, you know, all of the Spartans in the original movie went down, save for one. But did he come back, tell the story, and they tried again and were victorious? I don't know if that's actual factual information or they just added that in for a part two. But I like that movie. It had all of those good qualities, good storyline, it had some romance, love for your family, love for your country. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it.
So I know you said you do like kind of like happy ending type movies. What do you think like constitutes a more like depressing ending being warranted? Like what makes like an ending that is not as satisfying but more on the sad side still feel valuable?
I feel like if you're saving the life of somebody else and you've sacrificed yourself, then even though it may not be the happiest of endings, it was very purposeful and brave for what you did. So in that instance, I'm okay with that.
So like Tony Stark in Endgame, for example.
Yeah.
Well, I know you recently finished this Breaking Bad. How do you feel about that ending? Because Walter is both like the protagonist and the antagonist at the same time. So how do you feel about that ending?
So I'm gonna be real honest with you as far as Breaking Bad goes. I really, really wish in the end that Walter would have not been the bad guy, and that somewhere along the way he would have realized that what he was doing was morally bad, and would have changed his mind. That show to me is just so, it was just so crazy. I kept thinking, oh, he's gonna stop what he's doing because he realizes this is ruining his family, and now his brother-in-law's dead, and he was tried to be one of his biggest supporters throughout everything. I guess the ending of it was how it was meant to be. Yeah, I just wish it would have went differently.
See, I think that movie is like that show's like a good representation of the idea that people that are like less fortunate in life and don't do a lot can be corrupted when they're given that kind of power and that like sense that nothing else really matters because of course he had the cancer. So he's kind of like, well, I mean, I'm at the end of my life now. I haven't really done much up to this point. What if I just broke bad?
Well, he kind of got cheated out of what he was doing that was gonna make him successful, like the partners that he previously had. So that's unfortunate, but
yeah, well, he got his revenge on them in the end.
But I really think that there's a place that we're meant to be, and going in a negative direction like that and not trying to continuously work on yourself to make yourself better was not the proper way to do it.
Oh yeah, 100%. So let's kind of diverge off that topic. So we talked about the movie half. Like what kind of, I know you probably you're not really into this as much as me or anyone else in our family is. What do you think makes like a good comic, like a good superhero story? Because I know you've been there for like every superhero movie we watched, from Sam Raimi Spider-Man to Captain America Civil War to Logan to Deadpool. You've seen it all,
Obviously, a good superhero movie is a superhero. I mean, you can't really have a superhero movie without one. And within all those movies, there's always this element of self-sacrificing for the greater good. a lot of times you'll see superheroes struggle with morality, because a lot of times they just really want to kill the people and get things over with, and ultimately in the end they most of the time choose not to do that. They're superheroes for a reason, hence the name. I do think sometimes, though, there needs to be, I don't know if there needs to be, but, I'd like for there to be a little more focus on seeing them be happy, more with family than just this collection of superheroes. I mean, some of them do, obviously. Tony Stark gets with Pepper in the end. They have a child, whatever. But there's some of them that never find that. You watch 2 movies before you find out Hawkeye has a family.
Yeah.
That he's hiding from everybody out in the country somewhere, which I thought was pretty special. And I just think there's some elements to it that are all about whose butt they can kick and who they can take down, and you see the side of them that's I don't want to say violent, but they're the side of them that forces them to have to be violent when they're self-sacrificing and taking other people down. But you don't always get to see who they just are as human beings otherwise.
Okay.
Not in that role.
Yeah. So when it from what I'm getting from this is when it comes to your what you think is good about a superhero is that they don't necessarily always have to be fighting somebody.
Yeah.
Or having big powerful fights with villains, but you really like when you can get deep and personal with a character.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them have different movies of their own, so you kind of get to see a lot of their backstories, where they came from and what they've done. But I guess I think I would just like to see maybe more of that.
So you probably like a character more you probably like Spider-Man, because he's a more...
Yeah, because in all the Spider-Man movies, a lot of what's going on with him revolves around his Aunt May and his uncle and his friends. And then you have characters like Black Widow. We know how she came to be who she is, but we don't really know anything about her until she gets her own movie.
Which happened way too late.
And I mean, you do find that out, but you don't... So she's going through all this process in the Red Room, and you never get to the bottom of how does all that make her feel? How...
Mm-hmm.
Or what would she have maybe done otherwise had she not been chosen for that role?
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
So, I guess if you had to, name, 3 characters that you think are, superbly written in that way, to, where you not only get them, having a good display of their powers and, fighting bad guys, but also having a good, interpersonal relationship with themselves and with other people. Because you already said Spider-Man.
Yeah,
so we don't really
obviously.
have to talk about him. Just name a couple more that you think are well created in that way.
I think okay, so we get to see a lot about Thor. So we know a lot about him, his mother, his father, his brother, how that came to be, eventually the sister, and some of his friends. So I guess he would be one.
Yeah, you do like Thor. He's pretty interesting.
Pretty. Period. Yeah.
It's also true.
But it's Like the Hulk, we know how he came to be, but he doesn't have any super interpersonal relationship with anyone in the Avengers series, save for like maybe Black Widow a little bit because she's able to calm him down. We don't.
No, I know a character. I hate to interrupt you, but I think
okay.
I think you and I watched this entire series together. I think Daredevil is a really good character.
Oh, I was just leaning towards the Avenger types person, but yeah.
Oh no, anybody in comics. You can talk about X-Men, DC, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever it be.
Yeah, Daredevil. Yeah, Daredevil stories is great, really. I personally like the first Daredevil movie with Ben Affleck, and some other folks are like, boo. Yeah.
I'm the guy that says boo to that.
I personally did like that movie. Maybe I'm the only one, but the series I thought was fantastic. You know, the backstory, you find out things throughout the course of it that are really great. So yeah, Daredevil's great. I like him, and I'm gonna go with Ghost Rider.
You like Ghost Rider?
I love Ghost Rider. I love me some Ghost Rider. Yeah, because he for sure. I mean, you get a bit of the backstory of all of them when you see their movies, and whether it's the YTMCU or the DC films or whatever, like, you get the backstory, you get their relationship with other people, which is good, because you never want to sit there and watch somebody that you know absolutely nothing about.
Do you think a character like that can be done right? Like a character that is just kind of there?
For me personally, no. Like, I need to know more.
So you wouldn't want to see a character like Simon Garth in the MCU. You know who that is? Okay, so basically Simon Garth's whole character, right?
Okay.
He was like a rich millionaire dude, and he was killed, right?
Okay.
But because of some magic science bullshit, he gets revived and becomes a zombie, right? But the zombie has the sentience of his human brain, but he can't speak. So you don't get to hear anything from him or know anything about him prior to his life. And you can't hear any of his thoughts. So he's kind of just like a walking character that you never hear from.
But he just starts out that way? Like, but we know what happened to him, obviously.
Yeah. Once he becomes a zombie, he doesn't say a word ever. Because like, I remember like my favorite Simon Garth moment probably, it's in Marvel Zombies. You know, everybody's a zombie at this point, but the way they become zombies in that universe, they're like sentient, but they're overwhelmingly like want to eat people. But Simon, he's a different kind of zombie, right? Because, you know, obviously he can't talk, and he doesn't have any powers besides that of like think of like a Jason Voorhees type of zombie, where like, you know, super strength, you know, he can't really be killed or whatever, and of course he can't speak. But he can think like a person.
Is he a good guy or a bad guy?
Oh yeah. He's more of an anti-hero.
Oh, okay.
Because he doesn't really care about like killing folks or whatever.
Oh.
But he's not like a bad guy.
He just does what he has to do.
Yeah, he's not over here trying to like consume people. He's like he's a more heroic zombie, but he's still a darker character.
So why a zombie?
I guess just because at that point they already had like Blade as a vampire, Werewolf by Night was a werewolf. Moon Knight is kind of a mummy if you think about it.
Yeah.
So like they were just missing a zombie, I suppose. So they said, let's make Super Zombie Man.
Okay.
His superhero name is literally just Zombie.
A zombie.
So everyone says, let's just not call him that and just call him Simon Garth.
Okay.
Because it's a cooler name. We might bring him into the Midnight Mission. I think that'd be really cool to try to explore that. Like a whole episode of just him, doesn't speak, but you get to figure out who he is by like his memories and his body language.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
Who would you choose to play it?
Probably Jonathan. He's a bigger type, and he knows a lot about that character himself, which most of these guys don't even know who that character is. And Jonathan was like, "Yeah, I totally play Simon Garth."
Oh, okay. So you've already given him the lowdown.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was thinking, 'cause the first episode could just be about him, and you could get to hear about like his backstory. Because with the Midnight Mission, you're kind of like every episode's about like a monster as the villain, and like these certain characters are fighting him. But could the episode be about the monster is the hero, and he's not fighting anybody, but he's just kind of figuring out his way through life, and then he joins the Midnight Mission? It's like a backstory, but just kind of condensed down to like a 20-minute episode. Yeah.
Interesting.
I
Okay.
think it'd be really neat. And then in later episodes, you can find out more about him from bouncing off of characters.
So they just go around try to telepathically figure out what's going on within him, or
So
just watching him,
my thought kind
observing him.
My thought kind of, right, is like, of course, Doctor Strange has like a buttload of magical powers. So I'm thinking maybe, this is probably going to be a spoiler if anybody is watching that show in the future. If you want to hear kind of how it's going to happen, here's a lowdown. So Strange / Brother Voodoo / whoever is the mystical person at the time is probably going to like put a spell onto each of the Midnight Mission members so that they can hear Simon's thoughts.
Interesting.
I don't know if that's like something I really want to do, because like I think that kind of takes away from the silent part of him. But at the same time, I think it'd be really difficult to try to tell a story with him and other characters if he can't say anything.
What's the reason why he can't speak?
Because he's a zombie, his vocal cords are like depleted. He can make sounds.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Because like he
So
hasn't.
He can make grunts, groans, and moaning sounds, I guess.
Yeah, but
Ish.
he can't like speak because
Right.
regardless of the fact that he's like a super zombie, he
Yeah.
still can't.
Okay.
You know,
I gotcha.
he has a level of cognitive ability to a point.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, you've watched us make these movies since like we first started back in 2016. What are your thoughts on like how much the films have progressed since then?
Well, I think they've progressed fantastically. You guys have gotten other places to film. Better filming equipment, obviously.
Oh yeah, for sure.
With cameras.
Just got the gimbal.
The gimbal, the new microphones that we got that are lapel microphones, so you guys can wear them while you're performing all your action scenes, and they pick up really well. Yeah,
For sure.
it's amazing how much different the picture, the sound, and the clarity are from the things that we used to do.
Yeah. We first started on, I think it was like an iPhone 6S maybe.
Something like that, yeah.
And then our newest production is going to be filmed on an iPhone 14 Pro
Right.
with a DJI OM5 gimbal and anamorphic lenses and all that.
Yeah.
So like, what are your thoughts on the like just our general process of like writing, filming, producing, etc.? Because you've seen it all, you've watched it.
Yeah.
Every day.
So, I guess me as your mother, I watch you tirelessly sit here and write these scripts. I proofread most of them, and I mean, I think that they're always good. Sometimes I think that the wordage is a little hefty.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, when you guys were talking in the last podcast, he was talking about how some of the monologue type.
Isaiah said that he struggled with the monologue.
Yeah, because I mean, unless, okay, put it in terms of this. So, like in high school when I did theater or whatever, like a 6-week period of time that you're going to do this play.
Yeah.
And you practice it together every day, which obviously
That
you
definitely,
guys,
yeah.
you guys
helps
are
a lot
young
more.
men, you have lives, and you can't really do that. But if you disperse it to them and say, okay, you need to start trying to read this right now, try to start memorizing it and go over it with each other, a couple times, even if it's just over the phone or whatever, just doing some readings together, it's a lot better. We've seen instances where the lines were handed to you before you guys started filming,
Dragon and Tiger.
and that's just super tough, because not only are you trying to learn lines on the fly, but you're also trying to learn choreography on the fly, and where this looks the best, where that looks the best, what's the best angle for this, do we have the proper sound for it, and a lot of that stuff you can edit, but if you can just be prepared for it right off the bat, then you don't have to worry about all that in the end. I think it's really cool that other people have written some of the movies that you have done. I think that that's a good thing, that, you know, even though as your mother, obviously, I think that you're great, and I like what you do, but it takes some of the pressure off you to have some of the other guys write the scripts and things like that, because it's good to see it from a different perspective, really.
Yeah, it's definitely true.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you're the Moon Knight guy. Everybody knows it. You do it amazingly, and you know, when you write stuff for the Moon Knight movies, it's really great, and that's what your kind of like your forte, I guess, because she's like, you know, one of your main guys.
He's my favorite.
Yeah, right. So it's kind of neat for some of the other guys to write perhaps one of the scripts for a movie that their favorite characters in.
Yeah, like when Brady did Dragon and Tiger.
And then you guys can collaborate with it. But yeah, I would definitely say, I think that's probably the best thing, is just allowing each other to bring your creative differences into the writing process, and you know, just making sure that everybody knows what's up, like, way ahead of time, because, you know, I've seen you guys really try to make time to get together and do things, but you may have not had the scripts ahead of time, and it's mass chaos, and it's not fun, and
that's totally true. People
get frustrated, and egos come into play, and sometimes folks get angry because there was not enough preparation. So
yeah, I definitely think with our newest movie that's going to be a lot more helpful, because I sent out all the scripts earlier, of course, and I took a chip off Brady's shoulder, but did it in a better way, and I did it earlier than he did, which is probably a good thing, because towards the end of the project he started making separate scripts for each specific day of shooting, and had handed it out on the day that we met. But what I decided to do was make separate scripts for each day and send them in prior to the actual shooting.
And it's a learning process.
Oh, for sure.
You know, maybe whoever's writing the next one, you know, give them that tip. That's a good idea.
I think Brady's going to do Wolverine around the same time we're doing Spider-Man. So
wow, okay.
2 separate projects. I think after that one, probably be another one of mine. Either that or Chandler doing Daredevil Part 2, maybe. It depends on what time it's done, because I think those guys are going to come up like when it's warmer.
Yeah.
Definitely. So from what you've seen with our actors, how do you feel about the process of like our fight choreography, like physical stunts, and the kind of practice we do to like pull off that kind of thing?
I think the fight choreography is pretty good. There's been a few times when I've been involved in that, and I think I showed you guys some moves.
Yeah.
You know, it's really good now. It's really a lot better now. I'm not a great filmographer. Like, I don't do super good when I'm filming, just because I don't, like, I see things from a good angle, and you know, a lot of times I think when you're listening to people and they tell you, oh, so the key to get all the good shots is to make sure that, like I've told you before, you know, make sure that your face is turned towards the camera just a little bit, so that you're not always talking face to face with somebody. Because the sound carries better. Well, now that we've got the microphones, that's not a huge big deal, but you don't always want to be looking the other direction. Sometimes in the choreography, obviously you can't help that. The choreography is always pretty good. Sometimes I think it could be a little more, but for lack of not sure how to word it, not nobody take offense, but a lot of the guys aren't as physical as you. I'm sure they would like to be, and if you guys could practice the fight choreography probably a lot more.
Yeah.
As much as you do the lines, you could. And also, I think also what tends to happen in those instances is some of the tools that you guys are using in the fight choreography, whether it be knives, swords, or whatever. I mean, some of those things are pretty darn sharp.
Yeah.
And, the worry is there that somebody's going to get majorly hurt. So I think that whoever's actually holding them is probably super confident that nothing bad's going to happen. But the person on the other end, the receiving end, is probably like, oh crap, I'm about to get my face split open, or...
Yeah. Luckily, which has never happened.
I'm about to get impaled, or, I'm about to get punched in the face, and this is really going to hurt for real.
Yeah. Luckily, the most damage that's ever been done to someone is by another person hitting them on accident, and not, with a weapon.
Yeah.
Brady punched Dakota Ramsey in the face during a fight scene and made his nose bleed.
Oh, man.
That's, the worst thing.
We've had lots of nosebleeds around.
That's the worst thing. Luckily, no one's ever been sliced with a knife or a sword, or or hurt too bad by falling on anything. I think the person who's probably been injured the most is me, and that's just because I'm willing to throw myself on whatever to make something look good.
Yeah, and that stuff's hard. I mean.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, one day after we did a shooting for Dragon Tiger 3. And I think I think it was when I was doing the one take fight scene with Isaiah during the hallway fight, if you remember that.
Mm-hmm.
When I had come up and did that little combination with him, and he had hit me. When I had fallen, I tried to make it look, because of course I'm a boxer. I've seen plenty of people get knocked unconscious and how it looks when you really get your consciousness severed from you. You can't hold yourself up. Your body fall. So I went limp, and I had really, really badly hurt my knee falling on the ground, because I have the concrete padded floor.
You gotta learn how to fall the right way.
Yeah, I mean there's a way to show fall, because WWE does it, and
sure,
but and some stuntmen do it, but I try to make it look as realistic as possible, because I think it's different from the standpoint of someone who actually fights and has seen what it really looks like to get knocked unconscious. As I said, there's nothing you can do to stop it from happening.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, and the majority of the time when you guys are doing those fights, it's not a soft padded floor.
No. I mean, we fight outside on the street in concrete, or in a building with a wooden floor, or a linoleum floor.
Concrete floor.
I don't think we've ever had a fight scene on a carpet in our lives.
Back in the early days.
Yeah.
When in the very early days when you guys filmed,
before we put any of the movies out,
in
we
the
were
lighthouse,
just trying,
there was a carpeted floor.
Yeah, I like to shoot there again. I think it'd be cool. I think it'd be nice. I know I can.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
So, I guess we already kind of answered this question, but I guess I'll just ask it anyway. Is there anything you think we could improve on as a whole, whether that be in script writing, cinematography, choreography, whatever it be?
Oh my goodness, that's a hard question. I think the script writing is always good. You know me, I wish there weren't so many curse words. But
yeah. No, there's a question. What are your thoughts on the evolution of swearing in the YTMCU?
I think it's terrible.
Yeah. Give me your thoughts on that.
I mean, I guess sometimes I think it's necessary, but sometimes it's just
Yeah, I think.
Did that really need in there?
I think in Midnight Suns, especially, there was just a lot of swearing that wasn't entirely necessary. I mean, you remember that movie? Dalton was saying "cunt" like every other sentence.
Oh, that's just ridiculous, and I hate that word anyway. I don't know who wrote that in there. You? Thanks a lot, bro.
I mean, a lot of those were ad-libbed, I can't lie, just because Dalton was half tipsy on the set and was like, what if I just started inserting swear words?
Man.
Yeah, Dalton completely method acted Hannibal King on set. He was drinking brandy from a flask. He's like, if I'm going to play this character, I'm going to do it when I'm toasted. And I was like, man, I guess if it helps.
I do.
And it kind of did.
I do appreciate the fact that you do put the warning on there for children and stuff like that, though. That this is, adult stuff, and there's going to be things that they see and hear, and they should probably not be watching it.
Honestly, I'm more worried about like the violence most of the time as compared to the swearing. Especially now with Midnight Mission, that series is going to be, real dark. So don't show that to your children.
Yeah.
You're going to see some really messed up things in that.
Yeah, for those of you parents out there that think your kids are adults, they're not. So shield them from things they don't need to know yet.
Yes, please do. You don't want your child growing up like that. It's not the greatest.
There's a fine line between fantasy and reality sometimes that you can just go overboard.
I think it all kind of depends on maturity, because when I was that age, I was able to comprehend the difference between what you should and shouldn't do.
Yeah.
Based on something you're watching.
Well, the way that some things in the world are today, I would say that defining reality versus fantasy is not on the top of some folks' priority list.
All I'm saying is, whatever you do, don't try to replicate anything you saw in the Saw movies.
No. Definitely not.
Yeah, no.
Definitely not.
So we've kind of already talked about ourselves. Let's turn some attention to you, because, we haven't talked about, you in this film, in these films as much. So, of course, you talked about acting in high school, which you didn't do, too much of. You were in the Grease play, which passed...
I was in some other ones. That was just...
Oh, please tell me about them. I haven't heard about any besides that one.
That's because none of them were musicals. Like, that was the main one. It was the most fun.
Hey, man, acting's acting. I'm interested. Tell me about it.
There are a couple other plays.
We know about Grease because that one got passed down to Jonathan, who is also a YTMCU actor.
Yeah. I'll be real honest with you. I don't remember the names of a couple of them.
Really? Yeah. Did you do Clue?
No.
Really?
No.
That's one thing. I know we just said no. We're not going to talk about other people, but I kind of want to know because you've been there for all of it. A lot of our actors have come from theater.
Right.
Like, of course, Jonathan done a whole bunch of plays.
Mm-hmm.
Dalton, a whole bunch of plays. Jack Mack.
Right.
Wayne.
Right.
Jesse did a couple. You've done some. Isaiah and Owen did a little bit of theater here and there.
Okay.
Like, what are your thoughts on that kind of transition? Like, kind of trying to... What are your thoughts on the transition, I guess, is what I'm saying.
It's not really that different. If you're doing theater and you're doing a play and it's televised, the cameras are in your face, but they're not in your face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's obviously it's being filmed from far away, on a larger scope. There are some places that do theater and they have cameras that are able to get in up close and personal, but
Hamilton.
Yeah, Hamilton was great, but even...
Hamilton is great. I was always a hater because I never watched it, and I grew up with people, and I thought theater was cringe, but then once I, developed a brain and watched Hamilton, I was like, yeah, shit's pretty good, actually.
But even with Hamilton, it's clearly filmed from far back in the audience somewhere.
They have definitely got a lot of cameras.
It's not like they're wearing GoPros on their heads and they're
no, absolutely not.
Right next to each other talking up close and personal like it is when you're in a movie.
I think they have like a camera kind of like in the middle of the theater, one really far in the back, and maybe a couple like on the sides to catch those side views.
Yeah.
And maybe one like directly like in front of the stage so that they can get those kind of
You have to be
close-up
careful
shots.
with cameras like that though when you're doing theater because the lights are so bright.
Yeah.
You always have to make sure that the light coming down is not overshadowing your view of anything.
Dude, I remember when I first stepped on stage to do How to Kiss a Girl. I went and did that one for theater. Of course, I'd always been like a movie actor, so like just in front of a camera or whatever. When I walked out on that stage and all the lights were on, and I was like, oh my god,
Yeah, pretty bright.
This is real. This is real different.
Don't look at him. Yeah.
So I guess what I'm meaning in this context, rather than the transition from trying to do one to another, is like, what do you think the difference in like acting is? Because in theater you're trying to be more like animated, I guess, because it's a different type of production. It's less realistic, where you're more or less just trying to like be. I hate to say more like cartoonish almost, but animated. You try to bring out more personality and have more flair and pop, whereas in a movie you're usually trying to kind of be more realistic.
Theater's less personal most of the time. I mean, there are moments where I don't know how to explain it. The exchanges in movies are more personal. It's pretty much like you said. In theater, a lot of times, it's more showy.
Yeah.
It's for show. There's usually perhaps a lot more emotion sometimes, more emotion going on, especially in a musical, because it's all about everything's sung.
Yeah.
Or most everything is being sung.
I mean, the medium of music is just extremely
musicals are
passionate.
Fantastic.
Yeah, they are. I rescind all of my childhood statements of saying they're stupid.
Hey, we got
they're
a lot
awesome.
more I could show you that are pretty good too. But
I mean, man, Mamma Mia, Grease.
Right?
The Greatest Showman is a fantastic musical.
Yeah.
I went to see that one in theater, and it was totally worth it.
But as far as the transition, I think that theater is a really good stepping stone as far as, learning lines and memorization and being able to play a character that's not yourself.
Oh, yeah,
and that definitely helps when you get into film.
Well, let me like gather my thought real quick. I had something, but I kind of dropped it. Oh yeah, okay. I think one of the reasons why theater is less personal than film is because of the atmosphere that it's being performed in.
Mm-hmm.
Because with a movie, you're surrounded by other actors,
right?
But you're all in front of a camera, and you're trying to convey something that is going to be seen later, which has, in a theater, you're watching with a bunch of other people, but the people are mostly quiet because, they're just trying to take in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Or people are watching it, at home by themselves and, just bringing it all in. With a theater, you're performing in front of hundreds of people, which, they're all rowdy and giddy, and they laugh whenever something funny happens. They cheer whenever a good, musical number happens. But with a movie, the actors won't hear that.
Right.
Because they don't.
The expectation to do a wonderful performance is not there.
Yeah, not as much. Which, of course, is not saying that film actors aren't doing wonderful performances.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is, they've got the people that are working on set or whatever, and they know that eventually they're going to make this movie because they want to sell it to people to be able to see and for it to be seen for 10, 20, 30, 40, however long down the road. But when you're in an auditorium or you're in a theater hall and those people, let's just say family, for instance.
Okay.
So you're in a theater production and your family has watched you walk around the house for 6 weeks reciting lines. They might have even practiced the lines with you. Like, they are super invested.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've been
in
there.
this performance. Some of them almost as if it were them on the stage. And so when you get up there and that you've practiced this with them and you feel like they have a certain expectation of how you're supposed to perform because they have almost a personal invested interest in it as well because they've been supportive of you, is different than the expectation of, 10 million people are going to see this movie. And this play production took us, 6 weeks to put together and perform for 3 nights. And this movie took 4 years
And God knows how long
to
people are
work
going to
with-
watch it for.
Yeah, and grueling hours. So I mean, it's different, but I think, yeah, I mean, I think everybody tries to do their best, obviously, because you want to sell what you're pretending.
Of course.
But theater's different in the aspect of it's more personal to the people that are there with you to see you.
Yeah. I definitely think that when you're doing theater, a lot of the appeal of it is to get reactions from the crowd.
Sure.
Because, like, you didn't see plays going on during COVID.
No.
Because, like, there was nobody there to watch it.
And, if you're filming a movie, you sit there and you think, oh, I've absolutely done this fight choreography, and it's great, it's amazing. And, somebody sees your movie down the road, and they're like, well, that looked real stupid. When you're doing it in an audience full of people, you better make it look real darn good.
Yeah.
And there's no editing.
Yeah.
There's no editing.
Yeah, you have to do it all.
So, you have to do it the best that you can, and you're simply on the spot, literally sometimes with the light in your face.
Yeah.
Whereas in the movies, you can do 10,000 takes, and it can be edited. Things can be edited out. So I think that there's that's my reasoning for I like theater. Like, I love me a good play. Love me a good musical.
I've
It's
seen.
up
We've
close.
seen. We've seen God knows how many in our lives.
It's up close and personal, and you feed off of the people. If you tell a joke or you do something funny, they're laughing. You're like, oh, I'm doing really good. If you're behind a camera, you might think you're doing really good, but the other person watching the movie 10 years down the road might be like, oh, that was stupid.
Yeah.
So you don't know. You can't gauge it.
So, when it comes to, like, playing a character, I don't know. Let's take two characters that Jonathan's played.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take Jafar from a play and Crossbones from Secret Adventures, because they're both villains.
Okay.
What do you think has to be the kind of the deciding factor on why they're played differently? Because, like, of course, when Jonathan played Jafar in that play, he's loud, he's animated,
Yeah.
he's going to the crowd. But when he was doing that movie, he was getting very personal with the camera, with the crew. Do you think when they're playing these characters, they're in different mindsets?
I think you would probably have to ask him where his mindset is, but yeah, for me, personally, I would say absolutely. He knows the backstory of Crossbones, and he knows, Crossbones is not a funny guy.
No.
He's not going to sit there and, flail his hands around and make things big and bold. Like, he's gruff, he's a killer, So yeah, absolutely, your mindset would be like if you played the difference between the Joker and Moon Knight.
Yeah.
Like, even though Moon Knight's got his different personas, none of them are super happy-go-lucky.
No.
They don't really joke around and act real stupid. Your jokes are kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you do have jokes every once in a while, but they're more like snide remarks.
That's definitely a good way to say it.
Yeah. Whereas, a character like Joker, he's just all flamboyant and flagrant, and I'm crazy, and
Yeah, I definitely think that is two different types of mental illness right there.
yeah. So I think it's the same way in terms of those two different characters that Jonathan would have played, like, yeah, or anybody for that matter. Dalton's character in Grease was a lot more happy-go-lucky than
Bushman.
yeah, absolutely, his Bushman character. Yeah.
I want to kind of talk about it now. Now that we've had that conversation, because of course you're in the mental health field. Yeah, for anyone that doesn't know, that's what my mom does as a career path. She's in the mental health field. So, of course, I tend to get locked into characters that have mental illness.
Yeah.
Whether that be like Moon Knight or Sin Eater, or not even, well, that's not necessarily playing a character, like being interested in a character like Sentry. What do you think constitutes a well-written character with mental illness that isn't offensive? Because, of course, some people look at portrayals of mental illness and goes, well, that's not right, that's offensive, that's cruel. How do you think a character can be performed that has mental illness to the point where it seems, like it's doing it justice?
I think there has to be, whenever you're performing a character that has a mental illness problem, the mental illness can't be the only factor. It can't be perpetuated. There needs to be a glimmer of hope. There needs to be it can't be the only thing that defines them. Like, that's just...
What character would you use as an example of that? If you had to.
That's a tough one. How far of a mental illness are we talking?
Anything from clinical depression to psychosis.
Yeah. I guess I would think about it in terms of okay, we'll just go with Moon Knight.
That's probably the closest thing I can think of.
So Moon Knight's got dissociative identity disorder. He's aware of it, which oftentimes, which is really okay. So it's really interesting to me when I watch Moon Knight, especially when they did the series, is the fact that he switches so quickly. He's aware that the other person is in his mind.
I think it's like a weird hybridization between schizophrenia and DID.
Yeah.
Because he hears the voices in his head,
Yeah.
but then he can also become them
They're-
unknowingly.
The majority of the people that I've ever seen, though, that have true dissociative identity disorder, they don't know. They know that they have multiple personalities, but they don't know when they're changing into them.
Yeah.
To the host person, or let's say to Alex.
Okay.
Alex loses moments in time, or Alex might think he fell asleep for an hour.
But then meanwhile, doing something else as somebody else.
It's the other personality. And Alex wakes up and he's like, oh, I don't know what I just did for the last hour of my life. Somebody else was in there. It was you that was doing it, but it was another personality. So those folks, most of the time, they're not genuinely aware of what their other self is doing. So that's why that's fascinating to me, that they framed it that way, because
I mean, to begin with,
just kinda funny.
they didn't know. Well, at least Steven didn't know about Mark,
Right.
Because he was tying himself to the bed because he thought he was getting up in the middle of the night and doing something. And even in the comics, for some runs before Mark had actually kind of known his personalities, he'd wake up and he's in the middle of somewhere else. He didn't know where he was. He's wearing a different outfit. He's got a fake Jake Lockley mustache.
Yeah, I mean, that can happen and that makes sense, but it's usually just the main personality, the human being, that just loses time. And they don't know to who. You can't... sit here and say, oh, Alex fell asleep for an hour and Bob took over. Like, your conscious mind doesn't know that it was Bob that took over. It could have been Tom or Harry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So what do you think because obviously there is people that do this.
Yeah.
What do you think the way is that people find out about which of their alters is doing this?
Well,
and how many they have, for that matter.
So the majority of the time, folks would go to a professional,
Of course.
such as a psychiatrist or a psychologist. They would do psychological evaluation on them and observe them for a period of time and try to correlate situations where these things are happening. Like, if you intentionally, which it kind of sounds bad, but sometimes it's the only way you find out, is to put someone in like a potential, stressful situation
And see how they react.
and see who comes out, see what comes out, because that's really the only way to do it. And also, other people were around you. Like, if you had a legitimate dissociative identity disorder and you came out of your room and you were acting like a totally different human being, somebody around you is going to notice that and be like, whoa, wait, this is not my human.
Yeah.
Who is this one? You know what I mean? And more than likely, that personality is going to talk and say, well, I'm so-and-so. And then, whoever's around is going to be like, oh, okay. Why do you think you're this or that? And what was the catalyst that stimulated the change? And then, just try to lessen those things from happening. But a lot of times, once those folks are in that... So schizophrenia is different.
Of course.
Okay. Schizophrenia...
That's more of like a hallucinatory thing.
Yeah, it's mostly auditory and visual hallucinations. A lot of paranoia goes along with it, but you're not actually changing a personality.
Do you think it's possible that you can have both of those at once?
I'm not sure if it's possible or not.
And to what level would you think it? How bad would it be?
I think it would be awful. Although. That would probably be something that I would have to research a little bit more and really think about, because if you've already got a diagnosis of DID and you have auditory and visual hallucinations, is it really you that's having them, or is it another personality that's having them? You know what I mean? So I'm not sure about them coexisting.
So would it depend on your physical knowledge and consciousness of the having?
I would say, but you're not conscious of the other personalities taking over. So then would it then just be that, or would it actually be schizophrenia? You know what I mean?
Yeah, because then, what if you talk to one alter and they say, they're having the hallucinations, but you talk to another one and they're like, yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, because that's exactly what would happen. Because the one, the Alex, doesn't know what Bob's doing. But Bob could be like, oh yeah, I hear things and I see things all the time. But it's kind of like, do you really? Or maybe Alex is seeing and hearing things.
Yeah, because from what Jonathan was telling me, he's also in the neuropsychological field, so
yeah,
I'm surrounded by this shit all the time.
Mental health.
What he says is schizophrenia, which you could probably attest to, it's found through development in the brain, and fractures in the brain, or whatever specific part of the brain that is damaged is what causes these malfunctions in the brain. But with DID, there's like no physical way to trace whether they have it.
No, DID usually manifests itself from trauma. There's some trauma that happened that you have tried to avoid, and so in avoiding it, you have shut your brain down and allow someone else to deal with it.
Which is why in the series, whenever Mark was being abused by his mother, he would change to Steven,
Right.
who would numb the pain. So who's to say necessarily that what if you get traumatized by your hallucinations from schizophrenia, and that's what develops a split personality? And so that the other personality would be the one that takes the hallucinations when they happen, and that you would be around when they were less powerful. Do you think that's possible?
I guess it could be possible, but there are honestly probably in our in my particular practice, we've only seen maybe in the last 6 years a couple of people that have said they were diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder.
Yeah, I guess it's not
But
really
they
that
said
common
they
where
were
we're from.
aware
Yeah.
of the others, which, talking to one of the good psychologist friends of mine is like, yeah, that's not a thing. They're aware that they have others. They're not aware when they change to others.
Okay.
I mean, you should be like, oh, I lost an hour of my life. It must have been another. But you don't know which one it was. You know what I mean?
Mm.
You know that it wasn't you saying or doing whatever, so it had to have been the other.
I guess that would kind of just depend on how many that you have, right? Because like if
Right.
you just had another one, then of course it'd
Right.
be the other one. But if
Right.
you had like
Right.
in Mark's case where you have like 2 or 3 more,
Yeah. And
or if
so-
you're like from Split and you have 47 personalities, how would you know?
But schizophrenia is highly treatable. I mean, we have lots of medications that, mostly in the forms of injectables, that can help folks with that, to calm their brain down so that they're not constantly hearing or seeing, or the paranoia. As far as I know, right now with dissociative identity disorder, that's not a super curable thing. Like you can do a lot of therapy to keep yourself calm and
Stay in control.
not lose yourself and
Yeah.
stay in control. Yeah. But it only takes, one episode of bad juju,
Yeah, yeah.
and someone else could come out. So.
This is it's kind of on the same topic, but I'm curious, and I didn't feel like googling it because obviously you know stuff. What's the difference between schizophrenia and psychosis?
Psychosis is not usually a permanent thing.
Okay.
Like, psychosis is brought on by an intense stressful situation, and you just basically have what they would call like a mental breakdown.
Oh, so it's kind of a response.
Yeah, and you can be lucid to a certain extent, but still be like out of control, both mentally and physically sometimes. And then some people are in a psychosis state where they're catatonic.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
they're crawled up in the corner and they can't talk. They can't. They're just. It's like they're not there.
Yeah.
But it's usually, brought on by some intense type of situation. Schizophrenia is like an ongoing thing. Like once you have it,
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily go away. It's managed.
Okay. So that kind of helps clear it up.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever got to the answer to the last one. What
I'm
like?
sorry we got off track.
Yeah, that tends to happen.
Yeah.
What like you've seen? Of course, you've seen a lot of movies. I already said that.
Mhm.
How many movies have you seen where the main character has like a mental illness of any kind?
Oh, I mean, a lot. I mean, there's a lot of movies where it could just be something as simple as anxiety
Yeah.
or depression. Um, it doesn't always have to be one of the bigger ones, but ultimately, for me, I enjoy watching movies that if people are in that situation, they get the help they need to get out of it. I don't think that people should dwell on those things. I don't think it should be their personality trait. I know sometimes it's hard for people that have been in traumatic situations to kind of move forward past that, but it does you no benefit to live in it for the rest of your life.
This is true.
So whatever you got to do to move forward. I right off the top of my head can't think of a specific movie where the individual had a mental illness and they came out of it really like, I'm trying to think. A lot of the times movies are movies.
Mm-hmm.
So if people in a movie, let's say, they're a high anxiety person and they're paranoid. A lot of times in movies they just decide, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I'm sick and tired of being afraid of everything. I'm just going to gather my strength from somewhere and I'm going to defeat this thing.
Because obviously there has to be a resolve in a story.
And, I mean, I think that's what makes it great.
So what are your thoughts on, like, movies where they're kind of in the setting, but then it just never gets better?
I don't understand the point of those kinds of movies.
I guess, like, the way I perceive it is kind of like to, I guess, illustrate that, I guess, to whoever who's making it, if they're expressing their own thoughts on it, it's kind of just like to display their suffering. And I guess they feel like they're just hopeless.
Oh my gosh, we're going to get into some rough territory here in a second.
I'm not speaking from... I mean, I was. In the past, I may have been. But I've developed a lot since then, luckily. I'm feeling a lot better about life, so I don't really think I have to not to go on that route. I think
everybody goes through...
it's necessary.
Everybody goes through rough patches in their life.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true.
Some people are stuck in this idea that, everything's ever going to happen to them is bad. I guess it's what in our culture we call victimhood, which is totally ignorant. In my mind, is just to perpetuate it and just live there. No one's guaranteed happiness.
Nope.
Happiness is what you make.
It's true.
You get up, you love your family, you love your friends, you do your job, you go to school, whatever it may be. That is where your happiness comes from. That's where your purpose comes from. Just to sit around and think, oh, I should be happy. Why? Life's hard. And if it's not hard for you, then you're, the exception to the rule on some exotic island, and you have maids and butlers, and they're bringing your stuff to you, and all you have to do is lay in the sun.
Yeah, but even those people aren't always happy.
No.
No. I think what I've noticed from people is those who tend to be the most angry or upset are those that, and of course this isn't for everybody, just from what I've noticed, it's people whose expectations are too high of life.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's just, some people don't want to accept the fact that life is miserable and is horrible, and obviously it's gonna be filled with disappointment.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be terrible and miserable. If you're allowing it to be that way, then perhaps there's something else that you need to do.
It's perception, of course.
Right. There's something else that you need to do to make it what you want to do. And oftentimes that involves putting work in. You have to put the work in to get from life what you want.
Yeah, exactly. Because in the past for myself, I only have come up with this idea because this is kind of how I was about things, and I've seen it from people in my own life. I think we kind of we around people that are more optimistic than we are, and we say, well, these people are happy. Why can't we be happy? And then things happen to us, and we expect things to be better. So we're like, oh man, well, life must just suck then. So I'm pissed about it.
Mm-hmm.
But what it should be, and what it now is for me at least, because I've been through so much disappointment and just bullshit in my entire life, through many things. I now try to take those kind of disappointments and those missteps as motivation.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, let's say, a couple months back I was looking for a job and I was searching, and, I was, no matter what I would like sign up for, I couldn't find anything. And I was like, man, maybe I just suck. Maybe life just sucks.
No.
But then, time rolls around and here I am. I got a job, and I'm hitting the gym again. I'm moving past my kind of toxic lifestyle that I was living there for a little bit. And now I kind of just, if I have a misstep, it is what it is, and you just have to move on, I guess.
I hate to be cliche, but I've talked to you about this many times.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Patience is a virtue, which is totally cliche, but
it is 100% true.
Something
dude.
that I've heard since I was a little kid, and it's true. In our world today, we've got phones in our hand. Anything we want to look up, we Google it. You want to talk to people? Okay.
We live in a world of instant gratification.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when things don't come to you fast, you don't like it.
No. So it's not like 30 years ago when I was in high school or whatever. Like, we had phones. If you wanted to talk to somebody, you could call them on the phone. But if you wanted to see them, well, yeah, you have to wait till the next day when you're at school or whatever, or when you can go to their house. Now, you instantly are gratified by the fact that there's FaceTime.
Yeah.
And you can just pull up your phone. If somebody else has it, you can be like, hey, I see you. There's nothing to wait for. And phones are great. Don't get me wrong.
Of course.
Phones are great when they're used for their, intended purposes, and it's a nice thing to have so that you can check on your friends and your loved ones when you need to. But in terms of everything being in your hand at all times, I mean, it's just not a good thing, because people have learned to not have to deal with things not being instantaneous, and it's terrible. And then that instant gratification, when it's not there, it makes people crazy,
Yeah.
and that's where you just have to learn that good things don't come that fast most of the time, and there's places in people's lives where you're meant to be. And sometimes that takes a week, sometimes that takes a month, and sometimes that takes years.
Mm-hmm. It does.
And you if you expect everything to happen instantaneous, then you do need to lower your expectations a little bit, because it's not meant to be that way.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, I was boxing, that, for how many years?
Sure.
And I just won my biggest fight,
Yeah.
like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and that's not to say that you were ever not a good fighter. You've always been a good fighter.
Totally was, by the way.
You've always been a good fighter, except for one. But yeah, that was just a rough day.
The one fight,
and you hadn't eaten. And
oh yeah, the fight with Andre. Yeah.
You were like too nervous to eat, and just didn't have enough energy.
Yeah,
in
that
you.
one was big.
Yeah, but I mean, you're a good fighter. You've been a good fighter, but how many times did I tell you when you were done? Well, it's just not your day, but you'll get yours.
Yeah, I'm glad it's something I've realized because I'm so glad that no matter how hard life hit me, I never quit. Like, I mean, you remember when I was in college, I wanted to quit. I did because at the time, I don't care about getting personal. I had lost a girlfriend in 2 years. I was struggling with classes. I didn't have a lot of friends up there, and I was being stubborn, and I didn't want to make any.
Yeah.
And if I did, it was purely by accident. I was drinking, which I shouldn't have been doing. I really should not have been doing. I was just making unhealthy habits for myself, and I wanted to quit, not because I didn't like it or because I didn't believe in myself, but just because I felt worthless and I felt useless and I felt betrayed by everything, by life. Yeah, and then I'd quit college, and I was like, I'm not gonna box anymore. I might as well just make movies because it's the creative outlet and it's easier. I wanted to take the easy road, but then time rolled around, and I started looking at myself, and I was like, man, I can't.
What am I doing with my life?
Yeah, I can't do this. I was getting tipsy all the time because I'd let it influence me, and I was, I looked fat.
You're not fat.
Well, at the time, my muscles had kind of went away, and my strength had went away, and I just wasn't getting enough sleep, and I didn't have a job. I was doing nothing. I had nothing. Nothing for myself.
One thing I can say about my children is you guys are very stubborn, hard heads, and no matter what your dad and I tell you, you got to learn things the hard way.
100%.
Which, majority of kids and young adult people do have to learn things the hard way sometimes to get where you're going. And unfortunately, nothing bad came out of it, because that does happen to some kids, and I'm very grateful to the Lord that His eye was always on you guys.
Yeah, I mean, there was always that slight glimmer of hope, no matter what. Even when I was drinking, I had a really bad self-harm problem. Mom can attest to that.
Hated that.
Yeah, I had that up until the end of college. You didn't know this, so I'm gonna just tell you right now.
Oh no.
Because I want to let it be known.
Oh my gosh. You're gonna talk about super personal stuff on your podcast.
I mean, it's.
Okay, what did you do?
Of course, I was in my dorm room drinking, and nobody else was there because I'd got that single dorm.
Yeah.
And I would just get so miserable because I was single, and I was alone, and I didn't feel like I was doing good enough. Because even in the 2 fights I had up at Glenville, I lost those 2, and that was on home territory. So, and in my mind, that should have been a factor, but it didn't matter, because no matter how good the situation was, it was on me that I wasn't doing enough. I was being lazy and didn't want to train hard enough. So I would just drink, and then when the opportunity arose and I was feeling truly shitty, I would just cut myself with a knife.
No.
Yeah, but I know I got out of the phase where I wear hoodies and long pants everywhere.
Yeah.
So I would do it like right there on that part, so nobody would see it, and I hated it because then I did it because in the moment it was all blurry, and I was like, oh, I can't feel anything. And then, the next day, I look at myself and I'm like, fuck, what is wrong with me?
See, that's where I'm talking about being a hardhead, because I told you from personal experience when I was younger and I was a cutter, don't do it. You're just going to scar yourself up, and you're going to feel stupid later when you got the scars.
Yeah, I think that problem was so deep that I just, up until I was an adult, it still happened, And now looking back on it, I'm just like, what the fuck? Why did I do that? Sorry for the language, by the way.
No, I get it.
Because
I totally get it.
But I think now, that fighting spirit that was inside me came back out and said, it doesn't matter how bad we're feeling. It doesn't matter what you're doing to yourself, how you're treating yourself. There is there's always going to be a potential to do better.
Yeah.
Because, being the fighter is what really had. You know this. Boxing really changed my life and my perception of life. I think if I wasn't doing it, I probably wouldn't be as mature as I was, because I've had to take a lot of beatings and learn a lot of things. Got to get tough,
Yeah.
And I think, looking back on it, I'm not upset that it happened, because if I didn't do any of that, I wouldn't learn that it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
And
Well, I'm glad that's all you did.
Yeah, and I think, of course, with boxing,
Sounds terrible to say, but it could have
Yeah.
been so much worse.
It could have. I mean, people kill themselves every day
They do.
because they let those things bottle up and they don't do anything about it until it gets bad enough, and then they just
Yeah.
It happens. It happens.
It does happen. It happens every day, several times a day, and
I've
had to talk many people down, and it's super tragic, and I've been there myself, and yeah, I don't want that for anyone.
I mean, I have friends that have done it to themselves.
Sure.
I've lost friends to suicide, and if there's anything that I regret, it's not being there for those people, because I was too busy worrying about myself. And that's something that I try to do now, is to spend less time saying my problems are so bad, and it's so bad for me, but what can I do to help other people that are going through things?
Yeah.
And I get that self-worth from being someone that helps others. And of course, my devotion to religion, and to my friends and my family, and to my sport, and all these things is what gives me that worth, is having people that I love that can be there for me, and being devoted to things that I care about that have kept me healthy. I mean, even though I get hit in the head, I still got cognition, and I'm still fit, and I'm happy. And it's a lot better. It's a lot better than it was.
Yeah, we went way off topic about the movies and stuff, but
I think it's necessary. I think it's totally necessary.
This is gonna sound, I don't know, it might sound rough,
Hey, say what you gotta say.
and I don't want anybody to think that I don't care about people, because anybody that's ever around me knows that I care about everybody.
She definitely does.
Any of these kids that are ever in our home, I try to help them with whatever and treat them like, my own kids. Sometimes I yell at them too, which they're just like, oh, okay. Hey, it's my house, my rules.
She is the mom, man. She is the mom.
But, if there were never anything else that could be accomplished from bad times in life or disappointment, it would be one thing. But there's always something better that can come out of everything, and if you choose to live in the pain, then you're choosing to live in the pain. And that's unfortunate, because there can be so much more to life, and you can find happiness, but you have to want to bring yourself out of those hard times. I personally have never been physically abused. There's been a few times when I was manhandled. I'll say it that way. Not in a nice way. But emotionally, absolutely a lot. But do I go around like, oh, poor me, I'm so sad, nobody loves me, and, I'm getting emotionally abused all the time? No, it actually makes me angry, and makes me want to fight back. But, that doesn't always do anything good. That doesn't always help the situation. And it's not always fair to be the bigger person. But in the end, it's better somewhat. Keep peace. Some people like dramatic. They like to perpetually live in drama. That's just too much time and wasted energy on things that don't necessarily matter. And I don't want to stay an unhappy person. So, I've figured out how to get myself out of that. And, yeah. My spirituality is super strong. I believe God put me here for a reason, to be a good wife and a good mom, and good at my job, and a friend to people, and to help people. I try to do that to the best of my ability. I have, in my life, cut ties with too much drama, as everyone should, because at some point in time you learn you just don't have the energy for it, and you need to displace that energy and put it somewhere where it's more worthwhile. I think where I'm at is where God put me. I think things happen for a reason, because He says so. And yeah, without that, I would be a ridiculously hot mess. And probably dead. So.
Yeah, me and you both.
Yeah. So anyway.
I think it's definitely good that we have strong hearts. I feel like that's definitely something that not everyone has.
No.
Or not everyone believes that they have.
Not everyone has strong parts. Not everyone has a strong mind. Not everybody has a spiritual belief. Not everybody has supportive parents or family. Not everybody has been given the tools and the coping skills to learn. Not everybody's been given the resources to go out and get the help that they need, and it's super unfortunate. So, if anybody's, while I'm plugging all this, if anybody's struggling with anything, you need help, hit me up.
Yeah,
I can at least talk to you.
I will leave her work email in the description.
Yeah,
please.
I mean, obviously that's going to help locally, but, anybody that's listening outside of wherever, I will try to find help in your area if you're having any struggles with anything.
And we're not sponsored, but I wish we were.
No.
If you guys need a personal therapist and you can't afford to go see a real one, go to betterhelp.com.
There you go.
They have good personal therapists you can talk to. I've talked to some myself, both on there, and of course I had my own couple, actually.
Yeah.
Please do. You're supporting them, and who's to say in the future you won't be supporting us?
Right.
And you're absolutely supporting yourself, which is what truly matters, is that you are happy. So if there's anything you can do to, make yourself feel better, to help yourself, to feel, alive, to feel human, do it. As long as, it's not drinking.
Or hurting other people.
Yeah, don't do that. Unless it's MMA.
Hurting yourself.
Unless it's MMA, then we can call it. Okay.
I can think of probably a few other things I wouldn't want people to do. But
Smoke crack.
No, don't do drugs.
Yeah, don't do that either.
Don't
That's
do
bad.
drugs.
That's how you die.
No, there's just a lot of things going on in our society today that are totally amazingly crazy, and even though they sound like a really good idea at the time, they're extremely harmful.
Yeah, please don't do anything. Don't do anything like that.
Yeah. Don't do it. Just
at the time we're recording this, there's some things, but we won't talk about those.
Yeah, we're not going to discuss our beliefs on those things right now.
We really don't need to. It's not necessary.
So,
on a better note,
I am looking forward to the next YTMCU production. Do I have a role in this one? I don't think I'm in this one, am
I don't think you are in it. I think you might be in a little bit of it, just as like a kind of like a side character. But Spider-Man.
I need to do better.
Spider-Man Sins Rising.
I feel like my acting in these movies is a little lacking.
Speaking of that actually gets us on to our next segment of questions, which is what we're going to use to finish this off.
Okay.
So when you do act, like, what's your thought process? Like, what do you do to like bring those lines to life, bring that character to life?
I really don't know. Like I find myself sometimes having this twang in my voice, which really drives me crazy. But,
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
you know, I just have that country accent, I guess, of West Virginia. In my mind, I guess, I think if I was a detective, how would I behave? But I actually think it would be different. And this is on you, but
What?
you hand me the lines like when you want me to do the thing, and I've never seen them before.
Okay,
so
this is true.
So I'm not prepared
My
at
bad.
all.
My bad.
Yeah, and I have to look down a lot.
I guess I just do it because I know you can do it, and I don't really think you need to practice.
My memory's not what it used to be.
Yeah. I'll definitely get you the next ones earlier.
Yeah.
just because you said that, I'll remember that.
But I mean, I don't. Yeah, whatever helps you guys out. I mean, I don't mind doing it. I think it's kind of funny that your mom is in your films. But
Hey man, you gotta do what you gotta do.
there's not a lot of girls around that have time to be in the films. So
Yeah, the ones we had didn't really stick around too long.
So moms and female friends of brothers and other actors,
Yeah.
sisters and whatever they'll have to pitch in.
So hopefully we can get some more in the future. We're looking at a couple new ads, so that should be good.
Yeah.
So I mean, usually when I'm here with other actors, I'm like, "What's your favorite role?" But you've only played one character. So.
I'm Josh Gina.
Yeah. Hey man, you might be Aunt May in the future.
I should just let my gray hair grow out, huh?
That's what I was thinking.
I'm hoping more like hot Aunt May. Marissa Tomei,
yeah.
hot Aunt May.
Yeah, Aunt MILF.
Yeah, but I wouldn't go that far.
Well, I mean her.
Totally.
So, what I think Mom really shines at in our films is the creation of props and costumes, because she's very crafty.
I'm pretty crafty.
Very crafty, artistic lady. So when it comes to costumes, what do you like really try to create whenever you're making a costume?
Whatever you ask me to the best of my ability.
Sure, but like, what do you think really makes a costume like look good? Like, what makes it pop? You know,
Colors.
colors.
Yeah.
Yeah, for these comic book costumes, for sure.
Colors and the designs. Yeah, I mean, obviously we can always get a few more things to make the suits look better.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I like to do the face painting and the prosthetics. I think that's pretty cool. I'd never worked with liquid latex before till we started doing some of those. And
You'll be seeing a lot more of that.
It's very interesting.
You'll be seeing a lot more of that in the future.
Yeah.
We got some really cool effects coming up for.
Pulled some hairs out. And
Yeah, a lot of my facial hair has been removed on
Poor
accident.
Dalton.
Yeah, Dalton and myself.
Yeah.
Him for the Bushman, me for I don't actually remember what I had to do. What was it? Oh man, I can't remember. But you had to do something that plucked at my hairs. I probably had like a cut on my head or something. I don't know.
No. Was when I made you Carnage?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I dressed up as Carnage for Halloween that one year,
Yeah.
we did like half face, half symbiote, and damn, it hurt when it came off. So you've made like what costumes do you remember making? If you had to remember, because I know you've made plenty. Because I'm the guy that's like, oh man, I'm gonna try it, and I'm like, oh, this sucks, I'm giving up.
Oh man, I don't even remember.
So we've made a lot of costumes. So, I mean,
We've gotten some pieces for things, but
I mean, you did a lot of painting on like the Moon Knight suit. I know
yeah,
that.
I've done some painting.
Oh,
on,
man.
I've done painting on the suits. I've put the emblems on the chest plates. Did some of the stuff on the Sentry costume.
Yeah, you did. You made like the belt for the Sentry suit and like kind of the V-taper top.
Yeah.
And the booties.
Yeah. Did the
Sentry suit. Is
the
really
Eye of
cool.
Agamotto till we got a real one looking one.
Yeah.
Um.
That's just a piece of cardboard, by the way.
Golly, what have we? There's so many things.
You painted the Moon Knight suits.
Yeah.
Pretty much all of them.
A few times.
Yeah, because the paint comes off. You got to repaint it. The Black Knight suit, you did that one.
I've made several shields.
Yeah,
Several of the shields.
You made Taskmaster shield, Captain America shield, and Red Guardian shield.
Yeah.
What did you make that out of? Like a cookie tray? A cookie tray and some duct tape, I think, with like cardboard for the emblems.
Yeah.
Very, very unique.
Yeah. Gosh, what else?
I know. I did the Iron Fist costume,
Yeah,
which I
some
was
of the makeup.
very proud of. Yeah, you've done a lot of that makeup
The
and
makeup,
effects.
the hair color.
A lot of dude, the wound. Do you remember in Moon Knight 2 or
The
it
wound
also
on your side.
the flip the coin where there's like
Yeah.
that giant gash where
Remember
he
I
gets stabbed.
did Brady and Gabe's faces?
For
like
Sin Eater?
their faces got
Yeah, if
blown
you guys
off.
remember Sin Eater when he like blows those dudes' faces off, and like you can see like their exposed teeth and meat and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's all her, man. She did that.
Yeah.
You'll be seeing more of that, by the way.
Oh, whoa.
Not the same character, though. It's a different scenario. Yeah, but I think that's really impressive. The prosthetics look insanely terrifying.
They're kind of hard to do, too.
Yeah, they are. What's the most memorable costume or prosthetic you've done, in your opinion?
Dalton's Bushman face.
Yeah, yeah,
His peel-off face.
yeah. His cut off
Just
face.
because it was so silly.
Yeah, yeah. I wish I would have like known better cinematography at the time, because man, now I've watched that movie like Moon Knight 2 a couple more times, and I'm like, man, I could have done a really cool shot
Yeah.
with that. What I could have done is like put a light behind us to kind of be like the moon, and make it like a silhouette of me like pulling his face off, and maybe have like liquid in between, so it looks like you see like the peel. That would have, because you wouldn't have seen like the active gore, but just seeing the silhouette, you would have been like, oh, he just cut his face off. You would actually seen it. Yeah.
I mean, that was several years ago. We weren't even thinking like that.
No,
then.
we didn't even know what the hell a gimbal was at the time.
Yeah, no.
No
That
gimbals,
would've
no
been cool.
mics, just like an iPhone 10.
So it wasn't the best, but it just sticks in my mind because it was funny.
Oh
It
yeah,
was funny.
yeah. I'm really proud of one of the new suits we just worked on. You know the one. I'm not going to say it yet.
Oh, yeah.
It's super. The movie's going to be super hype.
Yeah, and you're doing that one. You've done that one pretty much by yourself.
Yeah, that's a suit I'm really proud of. I made that one by myself. I'll just tell you what it is. One.
I bought the boots.
Yeah, she bought the boots. I bought everything else with my first paycheck.
He did.
It's a Deathstroke suit.
Proud of you.
It's super cool. I'm playing Deathstroke in the Batman movie that Dakota's working on. That's gonna be awesome. A new character for me to play. My favorite DC character. So I'll get to have both played my favorite Marvel character and my favorite DC character. So that's a treat for me.
Yeah.
If you had to like talk about any of the props or anything, what was your favorite to work on? Like what did you have the most fun putting together? Like what was a challenge for you? Yeah. I know you like doing hard stuff because then it makes
It's
you
all
work.
challenging, but the most challenging thing I think for me was making the stake to go on Owen's head.
Oh yeah, Midnight Suns. That was a really, really cool thing. It worked out very well.
Because I kept having to bend that wire to get it just right to fit on his head, and yeah.
Yeah, that was very fun to do. It came out really well. It looked really cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
So how do you feel about the future of the YTMCU moving forward now that I'm kind of older? Now I can actually pay for stuff, and I'm not in college, so I have free time. How do you feel about
Yeah.
it? How do you feel about it?
I mean, I know it's something that you love to do. I would like to see. Ultimately, I would love to see. I guess see them continue because you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, we're definitely
But
a lot better than this.
I realize that you guys are getting older and people may go different paths in life. But you're gonna enjoy it while you can and keep doing it.
For sure.
And if it gets you more things to put in a portfolio, if you still decide you want to go to that film school someday.
Full Sail University, baby.
Oh no.
Yep.
But anyway, yeah. I mean, I think you guys are all creative, and I think it's really cool. And I can't believe you guys are still doing it. To be honest with you.
That's the same thing Pastor Kevin said when he pulled up in that parking
yeah.
lot.
I mean, honestly thought that when you graduated from high school and went to college, it was just kind of like
We thought it was over too, remember?
peter out and be done, and everybody would get jobs and go to college and do whatever. But you guys have managed to keep it going and do it better. So, I mean, as long as you're doing what you enjoy and you're able to, then more power to you.
I think I'm lucky that I am the way I am because I've found a way to balance making these really hard projects with working and being a fighter. Because obviously boxing you put hella training into.
Yeah.
And I work 5 hours a day. And I write these movies, film the movies, and I'm able to kind of make a good amount of time for each of them, so that I'm making projects in a good amount of time and still being able to work out and train for fights while still working.
Mm-hmm.
So, really glad I can do that.
Everybody got to have a hobby, huh?
For sure. Say, because I don't consider boxing a hobby. I consider it my future job. Right now. Yeah. Because right now I work at FedEx, and then I'd like to, eventually be able to make enough money from doing pro fights that I can not have to work there as a day job, and I can just make enough revenue off of being a fighter and having sponsorships and having merch companies and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then, who's to say that when I retire I can't make these movies with millions of dollars as a budget? Maybe make some really cool stuff. Because I really do have a passion for cinema and a passion for film and comics. And it is kind of unfortunate that Disney has the monopoly on comic book movies, so that you'll never see another person make Marvel movies.
Yeah, they're gonna end up ruining them.
They already have.
With all their wokeness.
I mean, it's not even just it's just that they can't be violent anymore. Really, you can't have swearing. You can't have really deep themes, and they've just kind of oversaturated the market to the point where DC's trying to copy them. And I mean, I saw Shazam the other night, and granted, this is a good movie, better than Ant-Man, better than the Black Panther 2 in my opinion. It's a fun movie. I don't find it to be particularly annoying, but I think it's Marvel-fied. It's very colorful. It's very hyper, lots of jokes.
Well, I guess that's what they have to keep up with.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not entirely the case. I mean, look at Logan. That movie was extremely dark and depressing, and it
was a great movie.
In my opinion, the greatest comic book film to ever be made ever.
Logan's a good movie.
It's a great movie. That's what I try to do with our kind of movies. I think our movies are good in the way that we can balance that, because you have a more bright movie like Dragon Tiger 3. That's like a martial arts movie from the 90s practically.
Yeah.
Like a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie without the Jean-Claude Van Damme. It's all about the martial arts and the Japanese culture and the fighting.
Yeah.
And then you have a movie like Moon Knight, which is about a guy who's tortured by his past and by having mental illness, and his villains are clinically insane people that just so happen to have superpowers and hate him. So you have two different sides of the same coin.
Well, I think that Disney's gone in an interesting direction. However, I do think that depending on the direction that they continue to go on, they may end up losing some of their audience, and I don't know, maybe they'll make a turnaround and make things a little different, but
I think the problem is
it remains to be seen.
I think the problem with comic books as a whole, which it isn't even necessarily comics, because comics are still comics, but movies, Marvel movies, being owned by Disney now, they're for kids. I mean, adults can watch them, but adults with that kind of comprehension and maturity probably won't find them to be as enjoyable as children will, because children are children look up to superheroes as their idols.
Right.
Especially boys, and girls do too, because you got Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel and now Black Panther.
My girl, Wonder Woman.
Hell yeah, Wonder Woman badass. She was in Shazam.
Yeah.
And superheroes have become a market for children of all ages and genders and whatever, and races now, thanks to Black Panther. Thank God. I mean, shit, I don't really think that matters though, because Blade was one of my favorite characters,
right.
and I'm not black.
Yeah.
But
Blade's awesome.
Blade's fucking super cool. You're about to see him in the future. I got a guy. But I think the problem now is that the audience is just collapsing on itself because now, of course, you got people like Martin Scorsese that are like, superhero movies aren't cinema because they're all for children and they're theme park rides. Which, I mean, I could kind of see it with newer movies at least. I mean, MCU movies used to be a lot more mature and have deeper themes. Captain America Civil War, to an extent, I think that movie had a lot of good themes of, with Zemo and Black Panther. I mean, Zemo killed his father, and then Black Panther was like, I'm not going to let myself become a monster because of this. I'm going to move on and do the right thing. And then, like, the Iron Man 3 was about understanding when it's a good time to let it go, and stop, being a hero and find your peace, which didn't happen because, money exists. And whatnot. But I definitely think there's always a good time to stop, which is that movie definitely tells you. I mean, there is good movies that have been coming out from comics. I mean, Shang-Chi was a sick-ass movie.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
I like Black Panther too. Granted, probably not as much as other movies. I like Shazam.
I like Black Panther, the first one. I liked it better.
I did too. I just didn't like the CGI at the end necessarily. I think that's kind of what threw me off. But there still is comic book movies being made that I think can fall in that banner. I mean, look at have you seen the new Batman movie, The Batman?
Mm-mm.
Well, it's rated R, but it's an amazing movie. And everyone on this channel knows I'm not a particularly big Batman fan. I'm more of a Marvel guy, of course, but I do love my DC. And despite not being a Batman fan, I know everything about Batman.
Yeah.
Because, I'm a comic book fan, regardless.
You do your research, yeah.
I sure do. I mean, I love Batman characters. I may not necessarily be a Batman fan, but I like Batman's characters and I love his stories. And the new movie is really good. I think Robert Pattinson did a great job, and everyone thought it was going to suck because, he's the Twilight guy. But he does...
Yeah, just because you do one movie, nobody should expect you to be that same person every time.
This is the problem. Everyone complains that actors only play the same character, but then they're the people that typecast them. So, I mean, it's your fault. Just saying. That's why you'll never see Jason Momoa play a character that actually has any personality and isn't just some big, sexy, hunky dude. I guess.
He's been in a couple series.
Okay, well, Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones.
Well, no, not even that one. The other, oh, shoot.
See, you can't even remember. Everyone just knows him because of Aquaman,
because they only did the one. I think they only did one.
I think I know what you're talking about. I just can't remember.
1 or 2 seasons of it, and then it stopped, but it was a good series.
See, I totally think you can get an actor who's, big and hunky and attractive, but they can still play characters that aren't just made to be that and can have personalities.
Right.
Like, I mean, Chris Hemsworth, he's Thor, big, sexy, hunky dude.
Yeah.
But, I mean, yeah, he's played characters that have been, deeper than just I'm muscular and I fight people.
I mean, they're not perpetually that way. They don't stay that huge for all their roles. Or whatever.
Of course. That's just something that
you don't see all the guys from 300 walking around with a 12
Oh God, no.
for the rest of their lives. That's a lot of maintenance.
I mean, look at Arnold Schwarzenegger now. He's not nearly as buff as he used to be. I mean, good Lord.
He's still buff, but I mean,
that's just the natural
part of his genetics.
I mean, even now, he's still buffer than I am.
Yeah, that's just part of his genetics and where he comes from. But
like The Rock, for example, The Rock only ever plays big hunky dudes with smoldering intensity. He's never really played like a serious character, I would say. You know what I'm saying? Like he's an action hero. He's the modern day Sylvester Stallone. But then you got guys like oh God, who played Leonidas? Wasn't it Russell Crowe?
No.
Russell. Who's it? What's his name? Gerard Butler.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he can play characters that are like big macho man, but he can also play characters that are more deep on a deeper level.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, yeah, it's entirely possible. Because like I've noticed that with Zac Efron. Ever since High School Musical came out, everyone expects him to be like the pretty boy. But he can play characters that are deeper.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't they make like a Ted Bundy show with him in it? And he did phenomenal because, he's a good actor. But everyone just says, well, you should play the sexy beach man. And then Baywatch comes out and then ruins everyone's perception of him yet again. But yeah. Let's get back to where we were. Stop talking about this. Yeah. Is there anything you'd like to say to the viewers watching about our movies or anything? Just anything to say?
Oh, I'd just like to say, keep watching the YTMCU productions. It makes these boys feel good when they know that people enjoy their content, what they're putting out. It keeps them going, keeps their hobby alive. They really appreciate the views. They're boys. They act like boys. They do all the fun boy things that boys did when I was a kid, like play cops and robbers and cowboys and Indians, except theirs is just a little more complex.
Yeah, we do it on camera.
Yeah, on camera and geared towards fan films. And, there's been times when there's been negativity and negative comments made towards them, and there's a lot of times where things are positive, and either way they keep doing what they love, and there's something to be said for that. That perseverance and not letting some negative comments from people who may or may not be doing it themselves and don't really have a valid reason for their complaints or otherwise. Constructive criticism is always a good thing. And I just appreciate these boys, and I appreciate Alex, and I love him very much. He's one of the loves of my life.
Love you too, Ma.
Yeah, baby. And just keep watching the films, and thanks for having me on. And I'm sure I'll be on in the future, and we'll talk about other things. And
we did have a really good
I
conversation.
hope everybody wasn't bored to death.
I hope that what we talked about today can entertain you, inform you, persuade you to go out and do something, or just have a good time.
Help some people, and just realize it can always be worse. It totally be better. It can always be worse, and for a lot of people it is. And just keep your chin up and do what you enjoy doing. And I'm really proud of the boys. Really proud of all of them that have ever been in anything, because it's hard to put yourself out there and not know how people are going to react to you. It's brave.
You definitely got to have some guts to do what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys, and have a good evening.
Yeah, everybody, peace out. This will probably be uploaded tomorrow because processing time and whatnot. But I hope you all have a wonderful day. And we'll see you on the next episode if I don't produce any videos before. Next episode, I'll be talking to Jack Mac, so you'll get to hear a conversation from us. And I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend.
Bye.